Tom Brady a lot of credit. I've said it again. If you're hearing me say that Tom Brady, you can argue that Tom Brady is one of the greatest he's the greatest quarterback of all time, him or Joe Montana, that's saying a lot for me because before this game, I put Tom Brady at 4. That's where I put him. Now I put him at 2, possibly 1. So for me to come out and say that, that's saying a lot about what I'm saying. So anyways, we finally got Mark Kelly on the show. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
We're good, man. Obviously, you watch the Super Bowl, and everybody's having they're saying, "Oh, Brady's the GOAT." I know you think Brady's the GOAT because of statistics, and I beg to differ. When you made that take that Brady's the greatest athlete, the greatest sports athlete of all time, I beg to differ. Michael Jordan's the greatest athlete they'll ever play. But as you guys know, we do this every single Monday. We call this segment "Mark It Up."
This is Mark It Up. Mark It Up. Mark It Up.
I love it. Back with the old intro.
Yes, sir. So,
all right. So, Errol, when you say that about Jordan, because Jordan's definitely in rare territory. Okay, so when you say that about Jordan, what do you think is the definite difference between him and Brady that makes him better? Which is hard to compare anyway.
No, you can't compare two sports. I agree with you, Mark. But when somebody like Tyler Harrison, who never saw Michael Jordan play, and say that Tom Brady's the greatest athlete to ever play in professional sports, you never watched the guy play. So how would you know? When you were born, he was at the end of his career. You were 6 years old when he retired. So what? How would you know? How would you know about Michael Jordan? You saw Tom Brady at the prime of his career. Fine, good for you. You never saw Michael Jordan. I know you did. Mark, I did too. Yeah. So I saw Michael Jordan at the prime of his career. So anybody that say that Michael Jordan is the greatest athlete of all time, you never saw him play. I don't care how many clips you've seen. He is not Michael Jordan. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Mark.
Yeah, okay. So I understand that part of it with Tyler. But again, as far as you having seen him play and me having seen him play, what's the difference for you? Not what Tyler, like what you disagree with Tyler, but why do you think Jordan is better based on what you've seen compared to what Brady has done?
Well, first of all, Michael Jordan played in a time where, in the game, the sport defense was completely different. In the NBA, you could actually put two hands on the body. The defensive game was complete. You could throw somebody out in the, out in the crowd, and you wouldn't even get a flagrant foul. Now, if you put a pinky on somebody, you're going to be thrown and tossed out of the game. Different game. Also, Michael Jordan played with some of the greatest teams of all time. He played against some of the greatest players, Larry Bird. And he played against Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas, the Bad Street Pistons, and all the great teams, the New York Knicks, the great New York Knicks teams, and the Houston Rockets. I mean, he played against some of the greatest players of all time. The Charles Barkley, one of the greatest assembled teams in NBA history, the Olympic Dream Team. So, okay. And Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, yes, he played against great players, Peyton Manning and Drew Brees. Yeah, great players, all-around players, 53 team. There's 53, 56 players on a team. And in the time that Tom Brady dominated the game, the league was completely changed offensively to defensively. In those times when Montana played, you could put your hands on the wide receivers. You could put your hands on the running backs. Or you could even beat up the quarterback and knock him out of the game. You can't do that anymore. So It's a completely different game.
All right. No, I'll give you that the game has changed, and it's definitely geared more towards the quarterback now. There's no doubt about that. But if you look at even guys in the 70s, like what Kenny Stabler had to put up with, what Roger Staubach had to put up with, Terry Bradshaw. Before 1978, you were allowed to basically put your hands all over the wide receivers, and they finally created the 5-yard rule in 78. And that's why you saw all those quarterbacks start to have much better years as far as completion percentage and touchdowns to interceptions. So that was really the cutoff, was 78. Even Bradshaw, before that, he wasn't a very good quarterback. And then after that, with Staubach, with Stallworth and Swan, they went from an okay offense to a dynamic offense, which is why they won their last 2 Super Bowls. But if you were going to compare Brady to every other athlete that we know, and using the same type of scenarios, which is age, which is the ability to consistently perform, during the regular season and being able to consistently perform at a high level in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And also now we know that now we know the success wasn't Belichick. We know the success was Brady. So now, that too, it goes along with it as well. So going to another place and winning with the Buccaneers, who the Buccaneers were not a favorite. If Brady's not there, they might make the playoffs, but they're certainly not a favorite to come out of that NFC. And I mean, like we were talking before the season started, not too many people, you included Speedy. There were a lot of, and even me, I didn't think Brady could get to the Super Bowl and win it with this team, but he did. So that was that was kind of like the last thing that he needed to check off on my list of things. He was already, in my opinion, but that just solidified it. So that's one reason, is his ability to consistently perform in his 20s, 30s, 40s, and his winning percentage is still the same now. His touchdowns to interceptions is still the same. Passing yardage is a little bit more. And we're talking at 43. Jordan was done by 38.
Jordan was done by 38, and then Jordan came back, and he tore his meniscus, and Jordan was playing at a high level when he was playing for the Wizards before he tore his meniscus. Right. I really think that if he didn't tore his meniscus, the Wizards could have went all the way to the final. I mean, the way he was playing, they were playing fantastic. You could shake your head.
No, come on. Because he was there 2 years, and that Wizards team, he did all he could. He carried them on his back all he could. I mean, he was in a worse situation there because he had absolutely no talent around him. Okay, so he was just like before Pippen got there and when he was younger, those Bulls teams weren't good enough to beat the Celtics or the Pistons. And when he finally got some guys around him, Pippen specifically, when he took that next step. That's when you just gave your answer. Tom Brady went to a fantastic team with so much talent to say that Tom Brady. You're shaking your head. Because they wouldn't have won if he wasn't there. They don't win.
Well, hold on one second. You might be right. But how would you know that? How would you?
Because of last year.
Now,
they didn't make the playoffs.
This was a different team than they were last year. Completely different team.
But defensively and offensively, there weren't that many additions outside of Gronk on offense that he had.
Was out for the season. He tore his ACL. He was out for the season. His rookie season.
Jameis Winston passed for 5,000 yards with that offense. So they were still a good offense.
They were a better team this year with Devin. I'm not taking away what Tom Brady did this year. I'm not. And for me to come out and say that you could argue that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time now, that's saying a lot. By the way, we have a caller, and I know he's been scratching at the bit. What's going on, Jeff?
Dude, you are the only person on the planet slandering Tom Brady today.
No, he's not. He's actually not. There are a
I'm
lot
not
of people
slandering Tom Brady. I haven't been listening to the show. If you're not listening.
Brady gets slandered for his politics now, not because of his play.
He's the GOAT, and this was the greatest Super Bowl run anybody has ever had. He went on the road to Washington. He went into New Orleans and sent Drew Brees into retirement. He went into Lambeau, where nobody wins, and beat the guy you say is the best. Then in the Super Bowl, and put him in his back pocket.
I'm not going to take away for what he did yesterday in the Super Bowl, even though he didn't have numbers, wouldn't show anything. But he didn't play well. He didn't play well against Green Bay in the second half. He didn't, and he didn't play well. He didn't play well against Drew Brees. He didn't play well against the Saints. It was their defense. Their defense dominated. What am I talking about? Go look at what the defense did yesterday. Go watch what 29 times they got into the back of the field. Nobody's ever done that in NFL history. You're talking about the Broncos. You're talking about all those great defenses like the Baltimore Ravens against the New York Giants. And you're going to tell me that this team got behind the line of scrimmage 29 times more than any team in NFL history. So please, Jeff, how about Leonard Fournette running over 120 yards? Okay, so don't give me this crap. Gronkowski get 2 touchdowns.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He ran for 89 yards.
Whatever. I'm sorry. 30 more yards less. He still ran the ball very, very well. And Tom Brady, who threw the ball for 201 yards and 3 touchdowns, was the MVP. To me, he wasn't the MVP. It was the defense. You could have given it to any one of those defensive players. I would have given it to Barrett before I gave it to Tom Brady. Okay, but Tom Brady gets it because he's a quarterback. That's not slandering Tom Brady, because I already just said, if you were listening to me, that I would argue that Tom Brady is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, if not the greatest. So don't give me this crap.
The greatest.
In your eyes, I still think Montana is. He never lost in the Super Bowl.
You know, if you're just looking for where you came from, Errol, you've taken a big step, I think, for knowing where you were at the beginning of the year.
He has more Super Bowl MVPs than Montana has Super Bowls.
Okay.
He does.
Okay.
Yes, Bob.
Okay, and and how many times did he did not deserve the MVP? How about Seattle?
Yeah,
He deserved
do
you think he should have won the MVP there?
It's a dumb argument.
It's not a dumb argument.
It is.
He should have won the MVP.
But listen, Errol, there are 2 guys that won offensive MVPs in the Super Bowl without scoring a touchdown, in Julian Edelman and Joe Namath. So don't say that, Brady, with throwing 3 touchdowns, 21 for 29, doesn't deserve the MVP. That's a pretty good game.
Yeah, and most of those passes were 5-yard passes.
But there's always an excuse. I mean, it can't always be an excuse.
There's no excuse for you to say
quarterbacks have to throw passes. I mean, you complete 21 out of 29. That's good no matter what kind of passes you're throwing.
I've said it too. I said it when Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl and he won the MVP. He shouldn't have won the MVP. Ask Speedy. I didn't think he should have won the MVP that year. So don't give me the crap. Don't give me the crap.
Against the Bears?
Yes, against the Bears, against Randy Grossman.
Right, he played okay, but you're going to give it to the quarterback in a game like that.
Like crap, and the Bears should have won that game.
I should have. They lost 29-17, I think, right? I mean, the Bears were better than the Colts.
Errol, here's the other thing I'm tired of, Errol, is all the hype around Patrick Mahomes. I don't want to hear nothing about Patrick Mahomes.
That's not bad. Mahomes is good.
Luther made it to the end zone before Patrick Mahomes did.
I agree with you. I will say this. Patrick Mahomes, everybody keeps talking about it. He walked out on the field like his head, he thought he was going to win the game. He played like garbage, okay? He played like garbage. You have all those weapons. You have Kelsey. You have Watkins. I know he wasn't 100% healthy, but either was Antonio Brown, and he still caught a touchdown. You had all those weapons, and yes, your offensive line. If you knew your offensive line and your left tackle and right tackle weren't going to play in the game, Andy Reid should have figured something out before the game. You had all this time. You had 2 weeks to figure this out. You're going into the game with your head up your ass. And to me, Patrick Mahomes had a terrible game. For a guy that everybody talks about how great he is, he made some great, unbelievable throws. He was fantastic. Some of the throws that he made were fantastic. This is a guy that everybody keeps saying is the next Tom Brady, the next this, the next that, the next big thing since sliced bread. He laid up a dud. Tom Brady, even in the games that he lost in the Super Bowl, he never laid up a dud like this. Never.
You're going to have bad road play. You're going to have bad playoff games. I mean, Brady's had bad playoff games. Peyton Manning's had Joe Montana. You want to talk about bad playoff games?
Never happened
against the Giants.
Brady never played well. Brady has never played bad in the Super Bowl. He's never. Go look at his numbers. I don't know about play bad, but I mean, he could have done better against the Giants. He didn't throw a touchdown, Mark. He didn't throw one touchdown. He didn't throw one touchdown in this game.
But Mahomes, I know Mahomes played bad, but you're gonna have bad games every once in a while. I mean, Mahomes is very good in the playoffs up until yesterday. I mean, you're allowed one bad game. I mean, he was outstanding his first 7 playoff games. So, you like I said, you want to look up bad. Look at Montana in the mid '80s against the Giants in the playoffs. Awful. I mean, quarterbacks have bad games. Look at Montana against the Vikings in the '87 playoffs. I mean, Bill Walsh almost got fired after that game because they lost. So you're going to have bad games every once in a while in the playoffs. You're playing against great teams. I mean, as embarrassing as it is, Todd Bowles really did a great job last night.
MVP. He was the MVP for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
He did a great job. It's hard to say, a guy that was the Jets head coach. And now, look at him now, all the success he gets. Good for him. But there are things you can't argue anymore. I mean, knowing where you were at the beginning of the year to where you are now, you've taken a large step. You wouldn't even have had this conversation at the beginning of the year or conceded anything. So, I understand where you're coming from, and I know how you feel about it. I really do. But here's the other thing about Aaron Rodgers, okay? Aaron Rodgers puts together great statistics during the regular season, but he had his shot. Same with Drew Brees. They had their shot. Home games against the guy that they trying to get to, and they lost. They lost. You can say, oh, the defense, this and that. Aaron Rodgers had 3 chances to drive and take the lead in that game.
I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing that, but that also has a lot to do with Tampa Bay's defense.
But it's got a lot to do with everything. There are a lot to do with everything in every game.
This was one of the best playoff runs for a defense to shut down Drew Brees. He wasn't 100% healthy. Aaron Rodgers, the way they did in the fourth quarter, shut him down, was fantastic. And then go against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Everybody talks about, the great Patrick Mahomes. And they completely shut down Patrick Mahomes. You could say, well, Mahomes is great. In the big game, yeah, Mahomes is great. When it came down to the big game and showing everybody, even with the offensive line and the problems that he had in the offensive line, if Mahomes won this game, everybody would have blew up his head. Mahomes deserves a lot to blame in this game.
Yeah, he does.
Mahomes did not look good. He did not look good.
He didn't. We'll see what happens. If he doesn't come back next year and have a stronger year, this should drive him. Magic Johnson had a bad finals too in '84 against the Celtics. Magic Johnson was awful. They called him Tragic Johnson. Handily look, have great players have bad games. Okay, how he comes back from this? He's still young. He's barely 25, so he's got a chance. If Andy Reid stays there, and they're able to build. But look, Belichick. The dumbest thing he could do was let go of Brady because now everybody knows that it was Brady and it wasn't Belichick. So the Patriot way and all this crap, it was Brady the whole time. That's it. You take him out of it, Patriots.
I don't believe that. That's crap. That's crap. Go ahead, Jeff.
That's absolute crap. That's crap, dude. If you go back to if you go back to when Brady started, they had such a small playbook. Tom Brady couldn't even throw the football when he started. And yes,
that's why he won the Super Bowl the first year he was there. First year.
Go and look. He almost never threw the football. Go and look.
Don't matter. What were they? With Bledsoe, they did nothing. They were nothing. They were nothing. Patriots were nothing.
Hold on. Mark, they had one of the best defenses in the league, if not the best.
They were nothing. They were nothing. They were nothing. They were 5-11 the year before, 6-10 the year before. They were nothing. They lost to the Bengals first game of the year in 2001.
Okay. And
they
what
were nothing.
did they do in the Super Bowl?
Turned the whole year around.
What did they do in the Super Bowl? Brady didn't play well in the Super Bowl.
Because of Brady. They won because of Brady. Bottom line, period, end of conversation.
No, they didn't.
Brady.
Yes,
they did. Why were they 0-2 before he took over?
What do you mean 0-2?
They lost to the Bengals in week 1. And then they lost to the Jets. Then Brady takes over. They had how many years with Bledsoe? How many years did we see Bledsoe get to the playoffs? Did they beat the Steelers with Bledsoe? They didn't do anything with Bledsoe.
Let Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff. We'll let you speak. Go ahead.
Listen. Brady got better over 20 years and transformed. But when Brady started, he wasn't like this world beater that everyone thought he was. Right? Like he was lucky to be on some good teams, and he got much better as it went along. But when he first started in the league, he got lucky and won a couple of Super Bowls. But the first, he was essentially Trent Dilfer.
You don't get lucky. You don't get lucky like that. He had his first year, his statistics were mediocre. Okay, then his second year they didn't make the playoffs. All right, that was probably the worst you could say about it. From then on, his third and fourth year, you look at his numbers in his 20s, his 30s, and his 40s. Winning percentage is the same. The yardage is a little bit better when you get in his 30s and 40s.
You want to know what, Mark? But you want to know what, Mark? Here's the most overlooked thing on the planet.
Good.
And this is why Belichick invented Brady. Because most coaches, name me a coach that goes away from Drew Bledsoe and how good Drew Bledsoe was to go to Brady, who was an unknown. And he basically did that just because of a salary cap move and was like, well, we'll try to win with a nobody rather than a really good player in Bledsoe. But so saying Belichick had nothing to do with it is one of the most retarded things.
Yeah, wait. Okay.
Dude.
What was Belichick's winning percentage before that year?
Oh, my God. Are
head coach.
you kidding me?
It's not like he had nobody. I mean, with the Browns and the Patriots, his winning percentage was about 451. I think it was 43-51 as a head coach before
Mark,
that.
who drafted Tom Brady? Who drafted Tom Brady?
Okay, so he drafted him. Great, but he wouldn't have won without. Good thing he did, because he wouldn't have won unless he was there. How did he do this year? They didn't win this year.
How could
they didn't
you
win the
say
year
that?
Brady wasn't there? They didn't make the play. They missed the playoffs.
You can't say that, Mark. Football.
I can now. I absolutely
It's the ultimate team sport. No, it isn't. And Bill Belichick
has nothing to do with him.
He is
Belichick's just like everyone else.
You say no? That's not true.
Just like everyone else. You give him Brady, you win.
Tom Brady was hurt. He tore his ACL. He was 11-5.
Dude, you're wrong.
No,
Dude,
I'm not wrong.
Belichick will never, ever win again.
11-5. No, Mark.
He's never going to win again. Belichick never won before. He's never going to win again. He won with Brady.
They were 11-5 with Matt Castle.
Yeah, and did they make the playoffs?
No, because of Miami.
Did they make the playoffs with Brady?
No.
Yes. Yes, they do.
Oh, they make.
Yes, they do. They make the playoffs with Brady. 13-3.
Brady, Mark. Nobody's. Go ahead.
How funny is that? You're making an argument that an 11-5 team that didn't make the playoffs is bad.
I didn't.
I
didn't, though. But, my argument isn't at 11-5 were they good enough to make the playoffs. Yes. But you know what? If Brady was there, they wouldn't have been 11-5. They would have been 14-2 and 13-3 like they were all those other years.
Oh, my God, dude. It's like the
There's no oh, my God, dude. I was there. I saw the whole season. They lost to the Jets on a Thursday night. They lost to teams they shouldn't have lost to because Brady wasn't there. That Brady makes a difference. Like, I'm not saying Belichick sucks. I mean, he's an okay head coach, but he wouldn't have had near the success he had unless Brady was there.
They just had an 8-win season with a quarterback that couldn't throw the football.
Okay, so dude, this was all we can judge him on right now. It was this year and before he had Brady.
Right, Brady.
Before he had Brady in this year, that's all you can judge him on.
We have other sample sizes that you can go and look at. They go 11-5 with Matt Castle. Brady
didn't make the playoffs.
Nonsense. They win 2 games with Jimmy Garoppolo, and then they won another game with their third stringer in Jacoby Brissett.
Okay, but now but he had Brady to go to after that, and before that, and since before Brady got there, Belichick was not a winning head coach. He won 1 playoff game. 1. That was against ourselves. 1 playoff game.
First of all, and I hate Bill Belichick.
Literally saying he's not a winning coach because he had a bad season in Cleveland. Who hasn't?
He had 5 bad seasons.
Oh, coach. He won with the Giants. He's won other places.
He wasn't a head coach with the Giants.
He was defensive coordinator. He's the reason why the Giants won those Super Bowls.
Well, okay, yeah, there are good coordinators. North Turner was a great coordinator. Was a horrible head coach.
So wait a second.
Todd Bowles is a great coordinator.
Wait a second, Mark. So you're telling me Bill Belichick won 6 titles and he has nothing to show for that? He's nothing. Those defenses that
Belichick wouldn't have won.
His defenses that he built, those players that he drafted, including Tom Brady, including Tom Brady. No, get out of here. Come on, Mark.
Those defenses,
man, you lost your mind, man.
Those defenses that allowed the game to go ahead and score to the Giants in both Super Bowls, that allowed the game time score in the Rams against the Carolina Panthers.
Jet fan, by the way.
Come on now.
Jet fan.
It's had nothing to do. I'm impartial. It's got nothing to do with this or that. I have no feeling for Belichick.
I'll go back and say it. Tom Brady isn't Michael Jordan, nor will he ever be. So you can say whatever you want. He's not Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan could have won 8 championships in a row if he didn't retire. He was that good. He was that good of a player. And yes, he went to the Wizards and he didn't win. But look at the team that he went to. He went to a crappy team. Tom Brady went to a very talented team. And I'm not saying Tom Brady doesn't deserve all the credit for what he did this year. He deserves all of it. He's definitely a big part of why they won.
But he really does deserve most of the credit, though, right? Because for the most part, this was the same exact team that was there last year, and they couldn't make the playoffs last year.
That's right. Yeah, that's the way I feel. I mean, I just think he was it. There's no secret. He goes there, they win. They win 3 road playoff games. I mean, Even that was hard to do.
I mean, people can say Gronkowski was an addition, but if we're being honest with ourselves, Gronkowski, and he had a great game last night, but for most of the season was an inline blocker.
Yeah, he was. I'm not going to say that, but I also said Gronkowski was going to have 2 touchdowns in the game. I also said that if they were going to win, Leonard Fournette's going to have a fantastic game. And I also said they were going to put a lot of pressure on Patrick Mahomes if they're going to win the game. All those things that I said was going to happen they happened.
But if I had told you on Saturday that Chris Godwin and Mike Evans were going to combine for 3 catches for 40 yards, Tampa's a loser.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you watch the first quarter and a half, most of those penalties came from Mike Evans. I mean, they couldn't stop Mike Evans. Every time Mike Evans the ball was thrown to him, there was a penalty. And I thought the penalties were ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous in the first half. You watched the Green Bay
tackling a guy.
If you watch the
guy that's wide
the
open,
ball, he had no chance of catching the ball. The ball was far, far away. It was at least 10 feet away from him. It wasn't even close to him.
That ball landed 2 yards.
Oh, come on, Jeff. It wasn't even close when he fell. It wasn't even close. There was a lot of calls in the first half that I could shake my head. I didn't understand it. You watched the Green Bay Packer game. People were pulling people. You could have stuck your tongue down somebody's ear, in their ear, and they wouldn't have called a penalty in that game. And then all of a sudden, you watched the Super Bowl, the first half of the game, there were penalties all over the field, but there were no penalties against Devin White when he was grabbing people on the shoulder pad. There was no penalties there. So I'm sorry. I'm going to say whatever you want. I'm going to give Brady all the credit all in the world, which I did. But to tell me that the play call, the calls from the referees were fair, I'm sorry, they weren't. They were not fair.
Listen, I got something for you guys. Okay.
All you want about the pass interference calls, and you could have an argument on some of them for sure. But the biggest penalty all night is a no-brainer penalty all the time. And it's the same thing that got Andy Reid in trouble when they played in the AFC Championship game. How does anyone think Andy Reid's a good football coach when he doesn't even know how to tell people how to line up on sides?
Andy Reid's a great coach. I mean, come on. Listen, Errol, who's he? I'm sorry, guy. What's
the lineup on
Jeff.
sides? What are you doing?
Jeff. Okay, Jeff. Thanks for joining us, Jeff. I mean, making good points here. But let me bring up one more point too. All right. The Buccaneers this year did something only 4 other teams did. The 80 Raiders, the 2005 Steelers, 2011 Giants, 2010 Packers, which is win 3 road playoff games and get to the Super Bowl and win it. Okay, so that's another thing he did. So there are a lot of things that happened this year that he did that very few people did before, and that doesn't happen often. So it's another thing that you can add for this was unique. And this is the reason why he is as great as he is. So there's really no argument you can make for him not being the greatest quarterback ever. That's a given. But to me, his consistency and still at 43, like you mentioned with Jordan, even if Jordan got hurt or whatever, Brady's ability to stay healthy, Brady's ability to keep his body in great shape, have
nobody's taking it away from him.
All these things at his age.
You sound like you want to ride him like a friggin' bull. I mean,
no,
seriously.
It's because I'm impartial, because he's 44 and he's doing these things that nobody's done. Nobody has done this.
What do you want to say? He's fantastic. Again, I'm not going to say
that's why I'm saying he's the best.
He's not. He's not Michael Jordan. He's not the greatest athlete of all time. You made that take.
Jordan
I'm
sorry, do that,
he's not. Michael Jordan
couldn't do that. Jordan at 38 couldn't do that.
Michael Jordan won back-to-back championships twice. Okay, probably would have won
his mid-30s.
He would have won 8 in a row. 8. And by the way, if Michael Jordan played at 38 years old on that Bulls team in 99, 2000, they would have won the championship in that short season too. They were that good. Maybe. So don't give me that crap.
Maybe, but he went. But Brady went to a different team and won. So the difference between Brady and Jordan, to me, is Brady at this age, in his 40s, not even in his 30s.
Basketball is different. Basketball is
still doing it.
Basketball.
That's a clear difference, though. Errol. That's a clear difference.
Go ahead, Jeff.
All right, here's what I would just say to you on the Jordan versus Brady thing, and it's it's harder to do, to compare, from sport to sport. But here's the thing, Errol, it's so infinitely easier for one person to affect basketball. You're one guy on the field with 10. And if you get a LeBron, if you get a James Harden, if you get a Kevin Durant, you're infinitely closer to a championship because one guy is easier to affect the game.
In these days, not in those days. Not in those days. Not in those days.
Brady, because one person in Tom Brady is affecting a sport like he is, which is infinitely harder to do in football. How can you not give Brady credit?
I'm not.
Might as well
hold on. Again, I'm not gonna say that I'm not giving him credit. He's one of the greatest athletes of our era. But Michael Jordan is the greatest I have ever seen. He is the greatest because Michael Jordan, in the time that Michael Jordan was dominant, the game was different than it is today. Maybe now today, I would say that. I would argue that. Yes, I would argue that.
How many rings does Jordan have again?
He has 6. He has 6, 7. But Brady, again, you can look at rings. You look at rings. It doesn't make you the greatest of all time. It's the way they played. It's the way they did it in the playoffs. He did it. Michael Jordan never went to a game 7 in the finals. Never did. Never did. It never even came close. And he played against great teams, great players. Michael Jordan played probably the greatest era when it comes to basketball and talent. Okay.
Well, I don't know. He would have had a hard time going through the 80s. He would have had a hard time.
He wouldn't have. No, he wouldn't have.
He would have had a hard time going through
right now in his prime.
No, not now. In the 80s, going through the Celtics and Lakers, he would have had a hard time.
In his prime, no way. With Michael.
Karl Malone and John Stockton were great players. They weren't Larry Bird and they weren't Magic Johnson. I mean, I would have liked to see them play the Rockets if he wouldn't have retired, but
he would have beaten the Rockets.
See it.
He would have beaten the Rockets.
Well, we didn't get to see it. That's the point.
Go look at his record against Olajuwon and the Rockets when he was he was playing.
Dude, Olajuwon's one of the only guys that Jordan really feared.
Just go look at his record against Olajuwon.
I know what they are.
What's his record? What's his record?
I know what he did.
What's his record?
He didn't do very well against Olajuwon and the Rockets. That's why they were saying that they couldn't beat him. You ask anybody on a Rockets, they say they would have won. You ask anybody on Bulls, they say they would have won. So, but Olajuwon was one guy Jordan definitely respected more than he respected Ewing, more than he respected Barkley, more than he respected these other guys he beat routinely. Okay, so I just think that in the 90s, that group, getting through the East in the 90s wasn't that hard. It was a lot harder getting through the Pistons and the Celtics when he started. But the Knicks were okay. They weren't a great team. And the Pacers probably were better than the Knicks, but even they were limited. I mean, they lost to the Knicks in 99, an 8 seed, without Patrick Ewing. So Jordan didn't have to go through the creme de la creme that Magic and Bird did in the 80s. He really didn't. That's not taking away from them winning. I'm just saying that he didn't beat great teams in the finals. Even the Sonics in 96, they only made it to that one final. So it's not like they were always there. It's always like you had just great, excellent teams always getting there.
I don't know how you could say that Michael Jordan. I'm listening to this. I'm losing my mind. I want to pull my hair out.
I'm saying he didn't beat great teams in the final.
Yes, he did.
He did. He did. You can compare the Jazz. So you can compare the Jazz.
Mark.
You can compare the Jazz of the 90s to the Lakers of the 80s, or the Celtics of the 80s. That's who I'm comparing him to.
He beat Magic Johnson. Why did Magic Johnson come out and say he's the greatest basketball player he's ever?
Yeah.
Larry Bird said it. Hakeem Olajuwon
said it. Jordan is the greatest basketball player ever. No doubt about that.
The greatest athlete of all time.
They didn't beat the greatest basketball player.
Athlete.
Okay, well, if they said athlete, then they said athlete. But he's the greatest basketball player in my mind, no doubt. But the Lakers of the 80s, even when Magic made it in 91, that wasn't the Lakers of the 80s. I mean, the Lakers were still good. And you know what? If Magic didn't retire, they might have been able to come back and beat Jordan one of those.
You're out of your mind. You've lost your mind.
Dude, Errol, I know what I'm talking about. I watched the games in the 80s and 90s.
That's fine.
That Laker team
I watched a lot of basketball was my sport, and I was a hockey player. Out of all the sports, I watched basketball before all of them, even hockey. And I started playing hockey when I was 5. I started watching basketball when I was 6 years old. I loved basketball. It was my favorite sport. And I would tell you this right now. I hated Michael Jordan just as much as I hated Tom Brady. And now when Michael Jordan retired, I realized I watched the greatest athlete of all time, the greatest sports athlete I've ever seen. Okay. And the same thing with Tom Brady. When he's done, I'll probably go back and say, you know what? I got to watch Tom Brady in the prime of his career and say, you know what? Tom Brady, you can argue that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. So again,
no, you'll never be able to make that. You'll never be able to make that argument. The greatest quarterback of all time is the same guy that had as many touchdowns as Patrick Mahomes yesterday, and that's Dak Prescott.
Jeff, what do you think about it? Jeff, do you remember the teams of the 80s at all?
Yes, he does.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I loved a lot of those teams. Like for me, if you want to go in, I guess it's still early 80s, but whatever. Maybe the most underrated quarterback of all time might be Dan Fouts. I love some of those 80s quarterbacks.
San Diego Chargers, yep.
Yeah, but Fouts was good. Definitely ahead of his times, but Fouts, when they lost in 78 or 79 to the Oilers, they lost to the Oilers when the Oilers didn't have Earl Campbell or Dan Pastorini or Kenny Burroughs, and they lost in San Diego when he was intercepted by Vernon Perry 4 times. And they were 12-4 that year, the Chargers. They should have gotten to the Super Bowl that year. So, and I love Fouts, but Fouts had some stinkers too.
Mark, do you realize since 1997, Tom Brady has as many has more NFC championships than the Dallas Cowboys do?
Do you realize? Do you realize that Tom Brady has more playoff wins than every franchise in the NFL except for the Steelers?
Good, and nobody's taking that away from him. I'm not taking away from him. I'm not taking away from him. I'm just saying he's not the greatest athlete to ever play the game in professional sports. That's all I'm saying. When Tyler Harrison comes out, and Tyler Harrison, I will say this on live radio, Tyler Harrison doesn't know his ass from his tailbone, okay? And he comes out on social media and posting up that Tom Brady is the GOAT in all sports. He's the greatest athlete to ever play in professional sports. Tyler, you never watched Michael Jordan play. Tyler, you probably don't even know your ass from your tailbone, so I wouldn't even take your word for it if you told me and I was bold and I was an idiot and I was blind and I couldn't hear, okay? I wouldn't listen to you.
Do you realize that if Tom Brady were to win one more Super Bowl, he would have double the amount of Super Bowl rings as both Eli and Peyton Manning? And Tom Brady doesn't even have a brother to even beat in this fight. We're talking the entire Manning family. He's got way more rings.
You still got kids coming up that might play in the NFL. So.
Well, his son, Cooper's
nephew.
son.
Yeah, the nephew is.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
But listen, Errol, one thing, okay? The Pistons of the 90s, early 90s, late 80s, they were very good too. I mean, do you really think that those teams weren't better than the teams in like the Utah Jazz or the Indiana Pacers? You really think that
you don't give the Utah Jazz any credit, Mark.
Because they didn't win a title, and because I thought they were overrated.
Because they couldn't beat Michael Jordan. They beat everybody in the Western Conference.
They didn't get there. The years Jordan wasn't there.
That's it.
The years Jordan wasn't there, they didn't even get to the finals. 94, 95, no Jordan, no.
94, 95. And well, if you remember, 94, John Stockton was injured practically half the season.
No.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Errol, come on now, Errol.
I'm not.
You can't always have an excuse for this or that or that. Look,
true.
Malone and Stockton were great, but they're on like the Ewing level, okay? And that doesn't mean that they're not Hall of Famers. It's just that they're not Jordan, they're not Bird, they're not Magic. Those teams of the 80s, even the Sixers in the early 80s, with Moses Malone, Dr. J, could have been Dr. Dre, Andrew Toney, Mo Cheeks, those were great teams too. They were better than the 90s teams. There's really no argument, I don't think, for the 80s Celtics, 80s Lakers, 80s Sixers compared to the teams in the 90s that played the Bulls, whether it be the Sonics or the Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even the Suns team with Barkley, they were, I mean, they won 60 games that year and then didn't make it back.
Barkley, that was a good team.
It was. But
Barkley was the MVP that year.
Yeah, but those were special teams. The Lakers and the Celtics of the 80s and the Sixers of the 80s, those were really special teams. It's hard to say. I don't understand how anybody could say it, but it's really hard to say that they were better than the teams in the 90s. I don't think there's even a comparison.
Michael Jordan would have won.
Hanging out with you guys tonight?
Speedy's there. Yeah, he's listening.
Yeah, I know. Speedy's being quiet.
Speedy's listening. He's learning. He's listening. But go ahead.
I wanted to ask Speedy. So we were told that this would have been the Cowboys' second.
This guy must hate the Cowboys.
Do you know what Cowboy has made it to the last two Super Bowls? Tony Romo.
That's right. Tony's got a Super Bowl now.
Oh yeah, he's just not
couldn't beat the Giants though in 2007.
By the way, the guy that ran on the field yesterday, that was hilarious.
Did you see that story?
Yes, I saw that story. Yep. He's trying to promote a porno site.
Who?
No, dude. No.
Who?
So he got because all the prop bets, and one of the prop bets was, will there be a streaker? And he put $50K down at plus 750. He made $374,000 after bailing him and his buddy out of jail. Because that's what he did.
That's great. That is so funny.
He was having lunch today at J. Alexander's, which is a restaurant here in town. He was having lunch and told the story to a bunch of people after just being bailed out of jail.
Hey. He's on. Too bad way to think of it. You do that next time.
If I actually went to the Super Bowl, I probably would have done it for $375,000.
This town was on fire last night. This town was amazing last night.
I'm sorry?
This town was great last night. It was so awesome.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Home Super Bowl, baby. Only Tom Brady gets one.
Anyways, Jeff, thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
Mark, we'll talk some more. You're a little sketchy sometimes, but it's always fun joining you fellas.
Thanks, Jeff. We'll talk.
Take care.
Look at these.
Jeff from Tampa. I love him. He's got some personality. I'll tell you this. He's this Patriot fan, and listen, he has his own thoughts. Everybody has their own opinion. I'm not going to take shots at Jeff's thoughts. If he thinks Tom Brady's the greatest, that's his opinion. Your opinion it varies. You think he's the greatest? That's fine. That's your opinion. My opinion, I think Joe Montana is still the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. I can argue now that Tom Brady can argue that. You can argue that Tom Brady's the greatest. That is my argument to that. I don't think that Peyton Manning is any, you can't say that Peyton Manning's as good or better than Tom Brady anymore. I think Tom Brady is by himself now. Right there. You can argue either two or one. I argue that he's two. That's my opinion. And
how do you guys like how you look on TV down here? Got a lot of good fans down here.
I loved it. I first of all, I love you, man. We fight, we argue. I love what you're doing, and I love everything about you. I want you. I'm hoping that you come back home soon so we can see you, and spend some time. I know you've been through a lot of hardship, and I'm glad that you're on your 2 feet and everything's going good for you.
Yeah, it's been a tough year. But
you're alive, man. I know what Sammy passing away. I know that was hard for you. I know with everything happening with your family, and you have to move into Alabama, you can't see your girlfriend. All that because of the situation with her son. I think with all the trials and tribulations you've been through, and the fact that you're still on your 2 feet, it's pretty amazing. A lot of credit, man. You're a good-hearted person. I know you're 100% for us, and I'm happy you're still with us, and I love the person that you are. You're a good person. You're a good, kind-hearted person. Anybody that knows you and knows the personality that you are, you deserve all the credit in the world of all the hard work and dedication you put in, and the situations that you've been in your lifetime, and that you're still on your 2 feet and you're still living. You're still living. You're still doing the things that you're doing. I think it's an amazing story. You deserve all the credit in the world.
Thank you. You too, guys. I mean, Errol, I think the world of you, BD. So, Errol, definitely one of the kindest people I know. When people get to know you, your personality on the radio is one thing, but people who know Errol, the things he does behind the scenes. Same BD. Like what I love about BD is not too many guys. Even Errol gets a kick out of it. Like look at those two talking. Me and Speedy will just go and we'll talk about the most random sports things because we both love sports. So, thanks for having me on again, guys. And
every month,
like Ryan and some of the other guys on too down here. So, and then we'll have you back as well.
Yeah, man, absolutely. We'd love to come on, and I love, like I said, Ryan. Again, Ryan's a very talented guy and an interesting personality himself. He needs to find that personality sometimes. I tell that to Ryan all the time. He's an amazing host of a radio show. I just think his personality. And I told him, every time I go on his show, I try to bring out his personality because it's definitely raw. That's for sure. But everything about him, he's a star, and he has a great knack for sports, and his thoughts and his opinions are very interesting, to say the least. So
I miss him, man. I miss him. I miss doing the show.
Yeah, he's a unique dude, that's for sure. And he's happy. He loves doing his show, the hickeys pickies and all his crazy stuff that he does. But talented kid, and I'm happy. All the hard work and dedication that he puts into this, it's going to pay off with us. That's for sure. I really do believe it. So
you guys are doing great. You got a lot of good stuff. You got a lot of good shows. You can see just how much you've grown even since I've been there. Keep it up, man. I love you guys. Thanks for having me on, and we'll continue this debate. Always fun to talk about.
Absolutely, I love it. Mark Kelly, ladies and gentlemen, good friend, brother, good personality, good-hearted person. He really is. And yes, I am a unique individual on the radio. That's for sure. But in person,
no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm a crazy person. Anybody that knows me, I'm a crazy person. But I would give you my shirt off my back if you needed it. I'm not a harsh person. I just have my own opinions to sports. My personality varies in different days, on different days, but all in all, I like to have fun, and my opinions are my opinions. And if you like it, if you don't like it, you can listen to it and argue with me. If you like it, good for you. I could care less, but that's just me. And like Mark always says, he's like, as a personality in a radio show, it varies. And, as a person off air, you're one of the nicest people you ever meet. And I want people to realize that, this isn't me on the radio is me, my personality is me. I'm not going to change who I am for nobody, but I have a very distinct thought when it comes to sports. And I'm gonna come out and say whatever I want to say because that's my opinion. Your opinion varies to me. If you think that Tom Brady's the greatest, that's your opinion. That's great. I honestly, I'll put him there now. You can argue that, but I still take Joe Montana, and that's just me. You don't have to agree with me, but when a guy has gone to a Super Bowl 4 times and never lose, I'm taking the guy that's never lost. And that's Tom Brady's lost 3 championships. Nevertheless, he won 7, and that's pretty amazing by itself. But he lost 3, and he lost 2 against the same team. So, yeah. So, and that's all I'm going to say. And by the way, probably his greatest run was when he lost his 2007 Super Bowl. Okay. And he lost. He was undefeated going into that game, and he lost against the Giants. So I'm just saying, speaking the truth. I will, Speedy will give his underwear just like Carl says, and
No, I will
not. But I really appreciate all the fans that listen to our show. We definitely went over our time, but listen. With everything that we do with sports and media and the passion that we have on our network, I want everybody to realize that what we do here is to entertain people, and what you see is what you get on this show. I'm not fake. I am who I am. I have my own opinion towards it. If you like me, you hate me, I'm happy that you're listening to me either way. So that's all that matters to me. Keep listening. Keep listening to our network. We are growing. We're going to have some new shows coming to the network in the next couple of weeks. I'm very excited about it. And like I said, there's a lot of great things going to happen very, very soon, and I will announce it when it does come to fruition. And when it does, you guys are going to be very proud of what I've been doing and what I've been doing for this network. So I'm very excited for the future of the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I'd like to thank Cruise Oxenrider from the Cruise Control podcast show. Yes, he was really, really cool kid. Also, talking to Joseph David and Brennan Detzler from the Sens podcast. Very, very nice guys too. The New Era Sens podcast. So very, very interesting two fellas that know their hockey and know their Ottawa Senators. So interesting. Definitely would love to get them on again. A shout out to Mark Kelly, good friend, personality, definitely stands out. Him thinking that Tom Brady is the greatest athlete of all time. I think he's on drugs, but that's just my opinion. Tom Brady was terrible at the combine. There's no athletic ability whatsoever. So how is he the greatest athlete of all time? I don't know. Maybe one of the greatest winners of all time. No question that he is. But greatest athlete, I would definitely hold up on saying that. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. And Tyler Harrison's an idiot. That's all I'm going to say about that. And Brian Snow taking shots at me on his show. You can kiss my ass too. I'm just kidding, Brian. Just kissing. I'm just kissing. Just kidding, Brian. I love you, man. But, it was funny. And I will say this before we go. Tyler was on Brian's show. And I think Tyler and Brian are going to be doing a podcast together. That's what I'm hearing. And Tyler was on and he was introduced. And Brian says, "Who took the mic out of your hands?" And then Tyler was laughing, and didn't say anything. Didn't say anything because I know he wanted to say me. I didn't. Just so all you fans know, I didn't take the mic out of Tyler's hand. Never did. Tyler took the mic out of his hand. And that's the facts. And if Tyler lies about that, Tyler can come on the show anytime he wants and he can challenge me on that. I never took the mic out of his hands. Never did. I always wanted to keep Tyler. I know he was for this network. I love Tyler as a person. But for Tyler to laugh and giggle and make it seem like I was the one that took the mic out of his hands, that is a crap of you-know-what. So that's a fallout of bull, and that's all I'm going to say about that. And if Tyler, like I said, anybody from any of the network shows that we've had in the past has anything to say derogatory about me as a leader, as a radio guy, and as a person that doesn't stand out for the guys in the network, they're liars, and it's a bunch of crap. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But Tyler can come back whenever he wants if he came back to me and he talked to me. That's Tyler's decision, and there were other reasons why behind it on why Tyler decided to take the mic out of his hand. And that's all I'm going to say. Speedy, do you have anything to say before we go?
Quite the arguments you and Mark had for sure. That's probably the longest we ever had, 3 times.
Well, Mark and me, we like to go back and forth, and Mark, like Mark would say, I try not to give him any time to speak, even though I do. So he claims I don't give him any time to speak when he conquers the mic when he talks. So I don't know. But again, I'd like to thank all the fans that listen to our show on our network. Carl, one of our biggest fans. Love Carl. And yes, Mikey C does like the Oreos in his keister. That's for damn sure. Well, in everybody else's keister. But maybe we stick it in Speedy's keister. Maybe why not? You have the tidy whities. He likes those.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. You like to go commando. A shout out to Jeff for joining us. Definitely a good intake of his thoughts of Tom Brady's greatness. Blah. And, Tom Brady, and you'll hear it again from me from now on. Tom Brady is, you can argue, is the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. You can argue it. I wouldn't argue it, but he's there. He's there. There's nothing. Peyton Manning is not Tom Brady anymore. Peyton Manning's on a whole nother level. Tom Brady is on a whole nother level than Peyton Manning. 7 championships in 10 tries. One of the greatest runs we've ever seen a quarterback, any player in professional sports do. And that will never take away, no matter how much I hate him. That's all I'm going to say about them. We will be back on Wednesday for Below the Mic. Until then, this is Errol Marks and the great Speedy Petey. Oh, and by the way, Speedy, who do we have on Wednesday, by the way? Who do we have on Wednesday? You don't know yet?
No.
Nothing? Really? Jillian hasn't given you any intake on that?
Not yet.
I'm surprised. Jillian likes to, give us a little of her thoughts. But anyways, we'll be back on Wednesday. We'll have special guests, I'm sure. Very excited for the future of this network. And if you're all fans or anybody tunes into any of our shows, keep tuning in. There's a lot of great things that is going to happen to this network. And I promise you guys, everybody that is a part of it is going to win something while listening. So definitely stay tuned for that. Until then, until Wednesday, this is Errol Marks, Speedy Petey saying good night. We'll talk to you then. Good night, everybody.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.